The bell rang, sharp and unmistakable, and in an instant the room transformed. Conversations stopped mid-sentence, chairs slid neatly under desks, and every eye faced forward. You could feel the change in the air, like a switch had been flicked. Back then, a simple sound carried authority, and everyone understood what it meant. Today, classrooms feel looser, noisier, more relaxed, but something about that sudden silence still lingers in memory. You won't believe how quietly a room could change back then, and it leaves us wondering how those small moments quietly shaped who we became as people, together, inside. A country was rebuilding itself, brick by brick, and quietly, so were its schools. In the years after the war, classrooms became places of order and hope, where the future felt manageable if it was carefully organized. Schools were not just about lessons, they were training grounds for life. Routine mattered. Fairness mattered. There was comfort in knowing what was expected of you each day. Morning assemblies gathered everyone together, voices joining in familiar words that echoed through halls. Exercise books were kept neat, handwriting practiced until it felt almost personal. Shoes were polished, jumpers mended, ties straightened, because appearance was linked to pride. Teachers were respected figures, guiding rather than entertaining, steady in a changing world. Discipline, as it was understood then, wasn't about fear or punishment. It was about learning where you fit, how to listen, and how to take responsibility for yourself and others. Britain believed that if children learned structure early, they would help rebuild a fairer society later. And inside those classrooms, many of us sensed it. School wasn't just somewhere we went, it was something that mattered. That belief quietly shaped generations. Long before anyone questioned whether such certainty could ever return again today, some rules were written on classroom walls. Others were never written at all, yet everyone knew them. When an adult entered the room, you stood without being told. When it was time to move, you lined up quietly, hands by your sides, eyes forward. Homework was presented neatly, pages uncreased, names written carefully at the top. These habits were learned so early they felt automatic, almost invisible. There was no long discussion about why these rules existed. They simply did, passed down from older pupils to younger ones, reinforced by routine rather than explanation. Most people today have no idea how natural this felt, how quickly children adapted to that rhythm. It became second nature, like tying your laces or checking the time. In many ways, those rules created a shared language. Everyone understood the same signals, the same expectations. A raised eyebrow could restore order. A pause was enough to bring silence. Compared to today's emphasis on choice and negotiation, it seems almost astonishing how smoothly it worked. Yet for many, there was reassurance in it. Knowing the rules meant knowing your place, and knowing your place brought confidence. You didn't have to guess what was required. You already knew. Those small, repeated behaviors quietly shaped manners, patience, and self-control, forming habits that extended far beyond the classroom walls. And before we realized it, those simple rules were preparing us for a much larger world waiting just outside the school gates, where adulthood slowly began to take shape. School didn't end when the final bell rang. The lessons traveled home in posture, manners, and the way time itself was treated. Being punctual mattered. Arriving late felt unthinkable because keeping others waiting was seen as careless. Saying thank you, holding doors, listening without interrupting, all grew from those same classroom expectations. Teamwork was learned quietly, often without the word being used. Sharing tasks, waiting your turn, helping a classmate who struggled were everyday moments that built confidence slowly. You discovered that being reliable earned trust, and that trust made life smoother. These lessons slipped into family life, into first jobs, into how people spoke to neighbors and colleagues. Back then, consistency created security. Rules were predictable, and that predictability gave children a sense of safety. You knew where the lines were, and staying within them felt like success. Today, flexibility brings choice. Young people are encouraged to question, adapt, and express themselves, which brings its own strengths. But it also means fewer fixed points to lean on. Looking back, it's striking how much of adult Britain was shaped by those early patterns. The way meetings were run, the pride taken in a job done properly, the quiet confidence of knowing how to behave in any room. These weren't dramatic lessons, yet they endured, and as times changed, those early habits remained tucked beneath the surface. Guiding behavior long after the classroom doors closed behind us, they became part of us, carried forward quietly, shaping choices without ever announcing themselves. What did it actually feel like to be there, in those classrooms that shaped us? The first day always carried a nervous excitement, stomach fluttering as you crossed the playground, school bag heavy on your shoulder. Inside there was a particular smell, a mix of polish, paper, and something hard to name, and the echo of footsteps along long corridors. Yet alongside the nerves came pride. Pride in doing things properly, in getting it right, in belonging. Knowing where you stood brought comfort. The rules were clear, and within them you could relax, focus, even enjoy yourself. Today, structure is often seen as restrictive, but back then it could feel reassuring, like rails on a bridge guiding you safely across. Many of us didn't realize it at the time, but that sense of order offered security. It told you that you were part of something steady, something shared. For years, so would those rules work today? In a world that values choice and individuality above all else? Probably not in the same way, and perhaps they shouldn't. Times change, and so do needs. Yet it's worth asking whether something quietly valuable lived inside those old routines. Not strictness for its own sake, but shared understanding, a sense of place. Maybe it wasn't just about rules, maybe it was about belonging. For more of these unbelievable memories, tap the video on your screen. The 1970s stories are something else. Don't forget to subscribe.